You have to go through the experiences. No one can tell you what you're going to have to go through. But as long as you're committed and you understand that this is your goal and your vision and what is on your heart that's pulling you to take a step forward outside of your job is what you're trading your life for.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Diamond Insights with myself, Tara, and the Dream Team. I have the lovely Yamili joining me from Germany on the Dream Team. And we have just a phenomenal guest joining us today who is also a student of Diamond Mind, who is Katie. And we're going to be sharing Katie's story and mindset practices and principles to really quantum leap your results. The purpose of this podcast is to really serve and support you. So if it has added some value to your life, first of all, we'd love to hear back from you. And what would you like to hear more about? Is there any topics that you'd love to dive into? And please share it. Share it with somebody else in, your family, your work, your community. And let's get this started. So I want to, first of all, just say that Katie has been such an incredible, as we would say, intelligent student of the mentorship here at Diamond Mind, and of course, Bob Proctor's legacy. And she is really just a living example of what is possible when you do the work. And as Bob would say, you got to do the work. And we know it doesn't end. I know Katie is in agreement. It's just kind of, it's just getting started, and it's just continually every day studying yourself, studying the mind, and studying laws, and really moving towards those big goals, those big dreams, right? And we've got our goal cards handy. So Katie, first of all, I remember when we had first met up, and I know that your story is really powerful. You are nowhere where you were, and you're just keep quantum leaping and growing. I would love for you to share with our audience, maybe what were some of the challenges, or where were you at before you started, making that commitment to really study yourself and to come into this legacy?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm going to be as raw and as authentic as possible because that's what's going to be the most received. And I'm actually very honored to have gone through the TIR material and Bob Proctor's material, Tara, and for what you saw in me, because you saw my higher self and my highest self when I first got started with you. And I would say that very first call I had with you, I was pretty broken. Or that was my perception and my understanding. And there was a missing piece. I had so many blind spots. I was in, I had gone through the mainstream medical system, if you will, and had received a number of different diagnoses. And that is what we're conditioned to believe that's going to serve us and to help us. So following that system and still feeling as I was feeling when I had come into contact with you, I found that this material was the game changer because diagnoses can create limitations, self-imposed limitations, and it's the way I look at it is whatever level you're suffering at, you need to get to the root. And that's what I was looking for when I came into contact with you, was I wanted to get to the root because the mainstream allopathic medicine system treats surface level symptoms. And regardless of whatever prescription I was taking, I didn't feel any better. I just felt like it was a Band-Aid. Or I'm crying for help, but here's a pillow and we're just going to ignore what you're actually feeling inside. So a lot of people, I find, pack, stuff their emotions to the point that they have a breaking point. So when I saw you at the beginning there, I would say I was in what I like to call my quarter life crisis. And I realized that something needed to change within myself. I couldn't any longer look outside of myself in victim mentality to find a solution. I needed to become the victor of my life. And that's what the partnership with you, the mentorship from you gave me, was the vehicle, the tools and the resources to take ownership over my life and to move forward with optimism, with positivity, with a vision, with a drive, with hope, which I felt I didn't have much of when I first came into contact with you.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to your share, and I'm sure those that are watching this can too. I know for me personally, when I came into, the private mentorship with Bob, I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I had worked in the medical system for many years and stepped away from it a long time ago before the happenings of the planet, whatever you want to call that. Uh, but when you just get that spiritual nudge, it's like, there's got to be more here. Like something is not right. And especially growing up myself, where I can relate in a home where there was a lot of mental health, there was a lot of addiction. Unfortunately, I lost both my parents that way. I'm so glad I got hooked on, self-development and heal, holistic and, new German medicine, healing, self-development, because I just knew it wasn't working the way that, my parents had gone, and my mom went prescription medication and then coping through other methods that did not support. And like you said, it's just a band-aid. We're just coping. But I know for me personally, even after all the years with other mentors and Tony Robbins, I think everybody needs Tony and everybody needs all these great mentors. But that's where I remember Bob saying, it's not working your way, but I can show you a way that works every time. And that really hit me. And
Mm.
I always reflect that when the student is ready, the teacher always appears. It's just we have to be open to it, right? And so that definitely it relates. What about you, Yamili? What stands out for you here in Katie's share?
When you were sharing how you met Tara and she saw the light in you, I can totally relate. And you mentioned blind spots, and that's also something that Tara um, point out. She put light into some blind spots, and I think that's so valuable when you have a guide and it tells you have to look and put some light in that corner because it's asking for your attention, and you're like, oh my god, is there any like particular blind spot that you remember and like very concrete?
Well, I'd say the a particular blind spot is I do have to say bring up another leader's that's had a positive impact on my life, Jay Shetty. I started reading one of his books, and the blind spot was, and that surfaced it even more as I was doing my work every day with you, Tara, was the three C's. A lot of people complain, a lot of people criticize, and a lot of people compare. If you can let go of the three C's, your life improves drastically. And when you actually start taking ownership for your actions, for your behaviors, and your words that you had spoken into existence in the past, changing your language completely shifts your world. So, and when you're changing your language or you're speaking out loud, as well as your thinking process, you see, you just everything starts to make more sense, and it gives you a confirmation of why everyone is where they're at. And I think that was the biggest blind spot I had is I didn't know why I was still where I was at. Because I wasn't taking the full ownership. I was still participating in those three C's unconsciously. And I know that you had said right before we started recording, Tara, that a lot of us lie to ourselves unconsciously. So, and I think in doing the work every day, I actually develop another level of honesty with myself. It's like, oh, shoot, like I had no idea. My goodness. Wow, that's why that happened. Just like everything just starts to make more sense. Like I would say, I mean, to get real raw with you guys, I think there was a deep fear in me of dying alone, and when I was in my previous partnership and I had already devoted how many years of my life and emotional investment and commitment, is like it was a very difficult thing for me to let go of, even though it was overdue, to the point that, and I didn't know, because I talked about this a lot actually previously about the good girl syndrome and the people pleasing, and then having to go through a process of blessing and releasing to become my badass self, to be able to fully express myself and choose myself first. And I've been single now for 3 years, and I've never been more fulfilled and at peace in my life, and powerful, confident, being able to use my voice, set my standards and my boundaries. I never had that in my past relationship, any of my past relationships. All of those were seasons of my life to shape who I am right now. But before, I didn't have the courage, the knowing, the understanding of who I was, because in the only way I knew how to be in an intimate relationship previously was to compromise my needs and to compromise my truth, and like thinking that I needed to settle, and like the what ifs. I think a lot of us ask questions of the what ifs. What if I don't find someone else? What if this is it? What if this is the best that I'm going to come across? What if I die alone? Like all of these questions, but I believe that we need to cancel all the what ifs and emphasize the fact that any decision we make will be the right decision. We experience so many different seasons of life. And one thing I've also learned too through this material is the art of non-attachment. You literally come in to onto this earth completely alone, with a family, a nuclear family, biological family. But no matter whatever season you're going through to develop yourself and achieve a new experience, it's you and you, which comes down to the level of, you know, self-reliance. I believe that we need to develop a whole level of, what would I say? Just, self-reliance and embrace success. And, we all go through struggles, we all go through challenges. But when you just recheck yourself and say, you know what, I'm doing amazing. The only two people I need to please are my 6-year-old self, my inner child, and my future 60, 70-year-old self. You can be at peace and you can be fulfilled.
Yeah, so you brought up a lot of points, and I'm going to just kind of highlight them for our readers. First of all, when you come into the mentorship, that is key. Personal, like extreme ownership, sovereignty, responsibility. And, I love those 3 C's that you shared, because it's just the paradigm, right? All that genetic environmental programming where, which is oftentimes rooted. And we see that in mass consciousness right now, in lack, limitation, victim consciousness, poverty consciousness, right? So, that to me, like being a sovereign being that is freedom, freedom to do, be, and have anything you desire. So love that. The other thing that I heard you talking about was, in Think and Grow Rich, there is a chapter at the end, is how to outwit the 6 ghosts of fear. One of those is the fear of death. I can relate to that, especially when you've experienced loss and heartbreak. I know, Katie, I know your story personally, where there has been some loss and relationship, right? And so we've got to outwit these ghosts. Again, it's just all stories. That's all the paradigm is. The paradigm's just that multitude of habits. It's our belief systems. It's our patterns. It's our conditioning. It's the past failures, right? I also hear that place of like persistence and being committed and just continually just doing your work and surrounding yourself around others. And that's one thing that I've seen you really get great at doing. And I know like that's a huge part of as you continue moving forward in your businesses and in your life. And the other thing I remember particularly with you was belief, which was praxis, which was the power of belief, and really doing some deep housekeeping of some of those limiting beliefs, because I hear you as you're sharing that. And I like absolutely love this, because I think that, many people can relate to this. And I hope that if you're watching this, you have your pen and a piece of paper and you're writing this out. Again, Kitty, what were the 3 C's? Criticism,
comparison, and complaining.
right. So, and we talk about that even like as you came in, right? It's like, let's put the people pleaser and the perfectionist on the back burner. And ultimately the joke's on us, because we forget who we are, and we are perfect and we are whole and we are complete. I always say warts and all, because, everybody has potential. Everybody has a purpose. And so, this is where, even like we all have acres of diamonds. We might be rough. We might be in that rough state. And how is a diamond formed? Through intense pressure and heat. And we got to be polished up. So I just absolutely love that. Another question that I would like to ask you, when you look at praxis, because I remember that was a big shift for you, and we had a lot of conversations around beliefs and around the paradigm. Um, what would you say was maybe, first of all, the biggest paradigm that you recognized was getting in your way, and what were the beliefs around that, and what have you done to shift that? And maybe what are you continuously doing? Because we know ultimately there's a daily practice of doing this.
Absolutely. I would say one of the biggest paradigms that many people need to work on throughout their life is the money paradigm. And because at the end of the day, we're not educated how to earn money outside of a job. That's the bottom line. So when I personally stepped into entrepreneurship, it was not only scary, but I realized I was actually talking about this today about mental masturbation. So I was just slapping my card on every course, every program. I was like, "Okay, let's do it. Where's the result?" But I realized that like you said, Tara, is you need to make those interchanges in order to have a shift in experience in your outer world and to be able to combine the belief and the behavior. You need to live from your vision every day, which is the most laborious work someone can do to control the thinking and what you want to think on a daily basis and act upon that. That's literally entrepreneurship is you're bringing a vision that you have in your heart and your soul that no one else can see, and you're operating from the expectation that it's already here. So I mean, there's no other level of self-development that you can do other than to achieve bringing literally the science of getting rich, Wallace D. Wattles, bringing the formless thought substance into physical reality. And then that's when you're connected to God, when you're connected to, I mean, just like harmony in general, gratitude. And gratitude is how you keep yourself open to the unlimited supply. And me reading on a daily basis and studying relentlessly has given me that conviction. And then when you start to achieve the results, you shifting the paradigm around the scarcity and focusing on all the past failures, the report card syndrome, the bank account syndrome, whatever you want to call it, you're rewriting your script so that you're operating from your winning, your wins, the winner's mindset, to the point that the previous paradigm is drowned out when it comes to scarcity, lack, and embodying those three C's is no longer it's no longer familiar, right? So I would say overall the biggest shifts, and the one thing that I will say is when you're working to change a paradigm. So I got involved in this work when at the age of 28, 29. So thinking about how many years of my life I've been conditioned one way, we've all been conditioned a certain way, just because you make the decision to start personally developing, changing your paradigm, changing your identity, and incorporating a new belief with a new behavior, a couple weeks, a couple years isn't going to do it. Like it's a daily investment. So in that process, you need to give yourself grace when you fall short. I wouldn't say fall short, but when you fall off the routine, and the paradigms are going to come into play anytime you stop studying. And that's why it's really important to become a serious student. So in that process, budgeting, tracking your numbers to grow your numbers, falling in love with money, and providing it at a home, because what you appreciate appreciates. And when you have direction on where you're allocating your money and your funds to grow the money, that's when everything changes. So I'm still mastering that skill. It's a work in progress because I have seen significant amounts arrive in my bank account, if you will, that was beyond what I had ever experienced in my previous profession. But I still didn't have the level of consciousness and awareness to hold it and to grow it because my previous paradigm was stronger. So if you're not developed and you don't knock that paradigm in the butt, it's going to play out in self-sabotage and bring you right back, cyber-cybernetics, your thermometer stat, to where you previously were based upon your original beliefs that you had for your first 25 years or whatever of your life. So now that I've gone through those processes, hopefully this can help those of you listening and having different money stories, beliefs, to rewrite that script, but also learn from my mistakes and have the plan ahead of time.
I like that. What about you, Yamili? What would you like to comment around Katie's share? Because I know for you, there's been a huge shifts in the whole money paradigm, which, for those of you listening, money paradigms are a direct reflection of your self-image and the paradigm. So what would you like to share there, Yamili?
First of all, I really like what you say, what you appreciate appreciates, and that's definitely true. And for me, it was the new Lead the Field program, and I know you also studied this, Katie. That made me realize the correlation between money and service. And in my case, I've always done what I love. So I didn't see it as providing a service or providing value. So when I changed that, it just created a huge shift in my thinking. And the gratitude, that's also something I practice every day. And it is such a simple practice, right? But what I love is that you practice it. Like right now, you just say, I am grateful for light or for being here, for technology. And it's an instant shift, right? It's so easy. So yeah, I really, really love, I can feel your passion for studying and repetition. Yeah. If you are enjoying this conversation, make sure to like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah, I love that. One thing I want to comment just around, again, the self-image is when you start dreaming and moving towards goals and using your higher mental faculty of imagination, and let's say, because everything is around frequency, let's say you make 5,000 or 10,000 a month, and there's a desire, which for everybody should be to get rich, because that's where you can really make an impact and give back and be in service. But let's say you want to 10 times your income. So that would be a big shift in frequency. um, who do you need to be in order to make that money? That's like the biggest shift, right? That's why, like Neville Goddard would say, the old man must die. Or Dr. Joe Dispenza would say, you got to break up with the habit of being yourself, which is some of the things that Katie's saying, because there most often is programming around money, negative beliefs around money, negative habits around money. And so you got to shift the paradigm, but it is a self-image change. And this is why most millionaires and lottery winners, they'll lose it because the self-image does not match the person who has that kind of money. So it's a huge self-image shift. Katie, what would you say in your life and results right now has been the biggest quantum leap? Like, you have a background in teaching school, and, there was loss that you'd experienced and a lot of, like you said, some, extreme challenges. What is the biggest shift that you've seen in your results right now from where you were? Like what are you doing right now? Like, tell us about it.
The biggest shift in my results stems from my environment, right? So, as everyone knows, we're literally genetically and environmentally programmed. So, when that was brought into my awareness through your program, I realized that anything that I can shift in my physical environment that my five senses are going to interpret, then I'm going to have a different results. And also, we're not conscious of it. This is literally on like a complete unseen level, that your nervous system syncs up with nervous systems all around you, right? So I don't even know what that would be called or what the
Called
term
the
of that.
law of resonance.
The
Yeah.
law of resonance.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so when I realized that, I was like, "Okay, proximity is power. I need to now start surrounding myself. Now that I've stepped out of my old environment, I want to surround myself with people who have my desired results, who are in the industry that I can maximize my current skill set." And one thing that I have always had the desire to do is to be able to travel the world, to build a global network, to speak on stages, and to impact people worldwide. And the big why is to shift the conversation, mental health being a big part of my last chapter. of mental health, shifting it to human potential. And I always ask people, would you rather have a conversation about, or if there were two seminars happening in the exact same building, two different halls, would you go to the one on mental health or human potential? And it's just a level of perception, connotation. And when you speak of such a topic, even at the elementary, high school level, there's such a negative bias around it, a stigma, a taboo, and the kids really don't know what you're talking about. They can't define it. They can't define depression, anxiety, or any of that. So if that is really an observation that I had from my last experience, all of my last experiences, I thought, why not shift the conversation for people to actually take what this whole program is based on, self-reliance, autonomy, understand how you operate on a daily basis. So I'd say, I mean, even before coming into contact with you and then starting the program, is learning how my body operates. What are my needs? What are my wants? How can I ensure that my cup is overflowing so I have more to give? Because you can only give what you have and what you have within yourself. You can't give from an empty cup. So choosing myself first has been a game changer for me to now be well networked and what would I say? What am I up to? Well, I left teaching. I tried a bunch of different things, and I'm still actually brainstorming right now. So I'm actually in the service industry. I am what I like to say is an exotic dancer, and so I do that periodically because there's no other role that I've come across yet that gives me the freedom to work when I want and leave as I please. And I travel a lot. Like in 2024, I traveled 6 of the 12 months out of country, so that job gives me that kind of freedom. And then I've actually embarked on another journey. I've got 3 exams I'm going to be completing to be partnered with an insurance broker. And then I've also got an endeavor within the industry of professional networking, network marketing, and we're really heading for the moon for this new deal. So I'm really excited about that. And basically, what I've realized is, what I like to say is, follow your heart and acknowledge the fact that we are all like innately gifted. We have so many different skills and resources within ourselves that I identify as a professional businesswoman who happens to use multiple of my endeavors, my skill sets to create wealth and create greater global impact.
I love that, Katie. You know, there's a couple things that, as you're sharing, first of all, like that law of resonance, right? There's no causes other than your own state of consciousness. So that's where we got to be honest with ourselves and take an honest look at, is this really what I want? And there's something inside of me that's vibrating at a certain level that is attracting this, the not so good and the good. And we have a choice. And it does start with how we think. And that's where we've got to become more mindful. I love how Mike Dooley, and I've studied with Mike Dooley, he says, your thoughts are things and your words give them wings. And so most people would be shocked if they knew what they were even thinking about most of the time, because they're using their higher mental faculties against themselves. But it's just that programming. Because if you grew up in a household, going back to your share around money or business, money doesn't grow on trees. There's never enough money. Money's the root of all evil. That's how the paradigm needs evidence of that in your life, right? So, and it is a vibration attraction world that we live in. We're all literally magnets. Like, again, there's no causes than our own state of consciousness. So if you look at yourself as a magnet, right? And I've just seen you magnetize, and you're just such an incredible human being. And that's one thing that I love personally about working with you, Katie, was just your desire to learn, your desire to be coachable, your desire to win, your desire to, even when I would give you suggestions, because the paradigm is the devil, right? You'd be like, okay, and you just get to work. So it's just been like an incredible journey, just watching you grow. And by the way, to our audience, if anything that Katie is sharing, because she is a powerful boss babe. She's getting on stages now. She's networking with some incredible people. She's got a plethora of things that she's up to. And we know it's through multiple streams of income that we truly are going to get rich. And there's no better time to be networking, because most people don't understand networking, and they don't understand money, and they don't understand sales. Networking is where we cut out the middleman. It's people helping people. So you really want to be connecting to people like Katie that understand these principles. We will be sharing Katie's links and ways to get in touch with her, because you really, again, proximity is power. And if there's something that she shared, and really listen to those nudges, that's all Katie did when she contacted me. And so I just want to inspire you around that. Yamili, is there anything that you want to share around Katie?
Yeah, actually, it's a question. So, when you were telling all what you are doing right now, I could really feel your heart in it, like your passion. And before you started this material, you had a normal job as a teacher, which you quit. What would you say to someone who knows in their heart there's something better for them, but they are stuck in a system that is crying for change? What would you say to that person?
Just take the first step. Like, there's no better time than right now. The last best time was yesterday. But we're exactly where we need to be. Everything is perfect and right on time and divine timing and your unique path. And we are the carvers of the future, right? If you are feeling, alone, then it's a confirmation that you are one of the leaders, because the leaders don't stick in, the leaders don't conform. And and then ultimately too, I think like one of my biggest lessons in the last 3 years is there's no easy way for you to achieve what's on your heart, right? You have to go through the experiences. No one can tell you what you're going to have to go through. But as long as you're committed and you understand that this is your goal and your vision and what is on your heart that's pulling you to take a step forward outside of your job, is what you're trading your life for. It's what literally what God, what universe, what source put you on the planet to experience through your years here on earth. No one's meant, I personally believe, this is a personal opinion, but no one's meant to live the same year on repeat for 30, 40 years. We are meant to grow and evolve.
That'd be pretty dull, wouldn't it? Well, I mean, we always say like comfort and complacency is the enemy. And this is where fear, like worry and doubt, keeps us literally stuck in ignorance. And there is a fact, like Bob would always say, facts are facts. The fact is that most people go to work hating their job and at the same time praying they don't get fired. And if that is you, I mean, that is a really horrible way to live, because we're not meant to live that way. We're meant to live a life that is filled with joy and purpose. So I love that. So just closing this incredible conversation, again, we'll probably have another conversation again, Katie, because there's just so much here. I would love for you to share with our audience just what are your 3 daily non-negotiables, no matter what. These are 3 non-negotiables that set you up for your day, keep you moving forward, because we know, like, I mean, challenges are part of life. There's going to be days where you're maybe not going to want to get out of bed, or where, something's happened. So what are those 3 daily non-negotiables that you could share with our listeners that hopefully they're going to write down and maybe try for themselves?
Well, it's really easy, guys, and I'm not sure how much self-help you do or if it's shelf-help. So if you're not taking action, you're going to continuously listen to all these different self-help things, and it's just going to go into mush, and it's actually going to create uh frustration and confusion, because you know better but you're not doing better. So my biggest piece is actually take them into consideration, what resonates most out of all of the suggestions you've helped from people who have achieved results, and just plug away at them daily. So my 3 non-negotiables that I do on a daily basis are gratitude, okay? And I read my chapters. I'm literally reading the same book, and I'm going to be completely honest. This is going to be my second attempt. I mean, I've been reading on and off to do 90 days straight of the same chapters, because the paradigm doesn't want me to read the same chapters every day. So daily study, gratitude, and fitness and nutrition are big for me. I know that that's fuel. So putting the right amount of calories, the right calories into my body while doing some intense workouts, as I'm actually training for a high rocks competition.
Yes, I love it. Awesome. Yamili, is there anything you want to share before we end this session. No, you're feeling good. Okay, so for those of you that are here, I want to encourage you to, again, like Katie's saying, you got to close the gap. We're on information overload on this planet, but we're really lacking wisdom. And the way we shift the paradigms, it's through that repetition Katie's talking about. It's not leapfrogging from one course and one mentor to the next. It's really about getting to work and doing the work through repetition. And I know Bob would say, I'm looking at doing another 21-day spring, challenge. These are things I did for 8 years with all my Ayurvedic. 21 days. By the way, do you want to know where the 21 days comes from? I love this. 21 days is how much time it takes for a chicken to hatch. So a chicken will sit on the egg. By the way, let's look at a chicken. How small their brain is? Very small brain, okay? So we got a much bigger brain, much more capacity. But that chicken will sit on that egg because it does take persistence and a commitment, right? And consistency for 21 days. So that's where the 21-day thing came from. But ultimately, to change your habit nature, to change the paradigm, it's going to take, like Katie was saying, how many years did it take you to form a lot of these bad habits and belief systems and patterns, right? So Bob would always say, for most people, they need a minimum of 120 days. And it's at persistence, right, Katie? And I feel you on that. That was my first personal mentorship kind of a homework that Bob gave me, was to read Faith and Think and Grow Rich. And I think it took me a couple years to do that and actually fulfill that 120 days. And I'll tell you what I did. I set myself up for success because the paradigm is going to set you up for failure. That is all that's all the ways that it's like setting you up, right? Like it's, what's it called again? Just losing my thoughts there. But anyways, it's like, I decided that every single day, because my kids were little at that time, before bed, I would have a bath. So every day I had a bath and I pulled out my book in the bathtub because it was like the only place I felt like I could get that space to do it. So I set myself up for success versus, right, the paradigm trying to self-sabotage, because a lot of people have that self-sabotage. So Katie, it's just been an honor to have you here. Thank you for sharing your story. I see people reaching out to you, and I just can't wait to see where you're going to grow, because I just know it's just going to get better and better. Yamili from the Dream Team, thanks for being here. Thanks for being here at Diamond Insights. We want you to take action, close the gap between what you know and what you do. And by law, your life will get better and better and better. And better is a good thing. So thanks, everybody. And we will see you on our next Diamond Insights.
Nothing happens without action on your side. If you are seeking for long-lasting change, let us know in the comments what action are you committed to take every single day for the next, let's say, 21 days.